ready to bend an East Indian Rosewood into a cutaway. This will be a 14 fret dreadnought. And I pre-shape my sides. I have a little jig that I set that up with. But you'll notice on the cutaway side, right here, one side's heavier than the other. That's to accommodate the geometry of the cutaway and the horn as it goes on the back through the 15-foot dish. So you always want to allow for that little hump, and that will be explained as we go through the truing up of the sides later, but now you'll see why that's there. I bend my sides at 0.075 inch thick. I'm going to use the typical heat profile. Start bending the lower at around 250, 275 on the upper. Hold it up at about 300 degrees at max, 275 for 15 minutes, and that's it. This is prepping the sides for bending. We're going to bend the cutaway first. I just put a little sprinkle of water on the slat. And the reason that I do that, so when I put my paper down, and by the way, I'm not using water, I'm using Windex. That makes the paper stick. And you can see, I'm just giving it a little, I just want it damp. I'm not over wetting. This is not, doesn't need to be extremely wet. Next, I'm going to dampen the wood. I just gently make it wet. Now remember, you got to pay attention to the orientation of that hump for the cutaway. So as you can see, this is the top. When we bend it, that will become the top on the back and the cutaway up here. So to make it easy for you, hump to the left, top to the towards you, put that in the bender, right-handed guitar. If you do it the opposite, it's a left-handed guitar. Okay, now I lay the other paper on top. I now put the slat on. I'll put the blanket on top of this, and then into the bender it will go. And then I'll explain the bending process as we go through that. Okay, now we're ready to bend. As you can see, I have my cutaway ram set up. I'll put my waist caul in here now. My marks that I had showed you previously are where they're supposed to be. The blanket is now turned on. The actual bending process will take approximately 4 minutes. So as of now, I'm setting everything up. I have my little story pole that I think you're all familiar with. And what it is I just have a little notch. That hooks onto here. That notch will determine where I want the end of my piece of wood. So now, the heat's turned on. It's going to get hot, and I'll explain that to you as we go along. The slat will be slat, wet paper, wood, wet paper, blanket. Thermometer between the blanket and the top slat. Okay, my temperature is ready to bend. I'm at about 235 degrees. When I go to bend this, I just walk this down just like I do anything else. I'm watching that I have a little bit of waste to trim off at the lower bout, which is good. I'm now at 245 degrees. I run my waist down, but I leave just a little pinch. I don't want to go all the way down because that's going to help adjust the side to the pattern in a second. So I'm just checking here. I want to make sure that my cutaway area is damp. I also have these little blocks I set up so I'm flush here, and now we're getting ready to go. I am now at 245 degrees. I'm going to let it get a little hotter. I like to be about 265, 270, and the temperature is definitely coming up. So you can see I'm putting my hand underneath here, and I can feel I have heat underneath my bottom slat. I'm doing 2 bends at once, here and here, and away we go. So you're going to hold your ram and everything's sliding in, boom. I'm against my pattern, I drop my waist, I'm now at 275 degrees, and now I'm going to go through the heat process and then the cool down. To take a cutaway out of the mold, not too difficult, I always back off the waste first, just a bit. Grab the lower bout. Now, take the cutaway off a crank or two. That lets the pattern be a little on the free side. I can push this forward gently. I get the pinning bolt out. Now, pull the rest of the waste out. Gently let the lower end loose. And now I can slide everything back. And that keeps the stress off the cutaway, so you don't have to worry about it cracking. And voila! Cutaway side in one piece.